Another summer, another record-breaking transfer window. Clubs have spent an insane amount of cash on new talent. We've seen record-breaking fees, last-minute swoops, deals collapsing, and a lot of debate over whether clubs have lost their heads completely. But the big question is, who overpaid and who just got the bargain of the season? Welcome to the Footy Stats Lab, where we talk all things football data, especially fantasy Premier League and transfer news. If you're into that sort of thing, then you are in the right place. Transfer talk is usually just noise. Fans argue on X, headlines argue about the fee, but very few people actually dig into whether the numbers and the money make sense. Today we're looking at the top 20 most expensive moves this summer and analysing the performance and tracking data to cut through the noise. By the end, I'll rank every move from biggest bargain to biggest robbery. Let's get straight into it. Before we can judge whether a transfer fee is good value or not, we need a framework for our analysis. Because a transfer fee is basically a bet, and there are 4 factors that determine whether a bet was smart or reckless. Performance level, in other words, how good the player is and what the data says about their performance levels. Second is resale potential. Is this a long-term investment with the hope of selling the player on for a profit in the future, or more of a short-term gamble that you're just hoping to get the player for what they are right now? Third is tactical fit. Does the player solve a problem for the club, or do they not really fit into the system tactically or based off their playstyle? And fourth is risk factors. Injuries, inconsistency, market inflation. Sometimes a club will just pay more for a player because they're desperate and their rivals know that and they drive up the price. So those are the 4 factors in our analysis. Score high on all 4 and you look like a bargain. Score low on all 4 and that's an expensive mistake. With that in mind, let's dive into the most expensive purchases this summer, starting with number 20, João Wissa. He's played 4 full seasons in the Prem, scoring 7, 12, then 19 goals in the league. So there's a clear trend upwards in his goal output, and last season he scored 19 goals without any penalties, which was the second most non-penalty goals in the league. He was also a bit of a chance magnet, ranking first in the league in non-penalty XG per 90 and second in the top 5 European leagues overall, just behind Lewandowski. So last year was clearly a standout season for him. But at 29 years old, with little resale value, Newcastle dropping 60 million euros feels like a bit of a stretch. And who knows whether he can replicate that form at Newcastle with a new manager, new teammates, new system. I think with the whole Isak situation and a shortage of really top quality strikers left in the market on the last day of the window, Newcastle have gone for a nice short-term solution here. And while he was very impressive last season, I think a player at his age and with his level of experience means this is maybe a bit of an overspending. And when you consider that Newcastle's opening bid for Wissa was £25 million, I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and put this one into gamble, which does feel harsh for a striker that scored 19 non-penalty goals in the Premier League last season, but starting off with a controversial one here, let's put him into the gamble tier. Next up is another Newcastle transfer, Anthony Elanga for 61.4 million euros. Elanga has completely rebuilt his career at Nottingham Forest since leaving Manchester United. In his first season with them, he had 14 goal involvements in the league, and in his most recent season, 17 goal involvements in the league. And 11 of those 17 goal involvements were assists, which ranks him as 3rd most in the league last season. He also ranked 3rd for percentage of shots on target for players with 20 shots or more in the league last season. So clearly he's an effective winger that can provide some attack and output. He's extremely effective in transition using his pace, which was Nottingham Forest's bread and butter last season. And Newcastle also do love a good counter attack, but can Eddie Howe get the best out of Elanga? Our club fit model suggests that while the team's playstyle matches how Elanga naturally performs, the tactical fit isn't a perfect match, meaning the team's structure and phases may be unfamiliar to him initially. Personally, I think that this is a great move for him and that Eddie Howe will get the best out of him, but 61 million for a player that hasn't scored more than 6 goals in a season feels like a lot. However, there is resale potential there because he's only 23 years old, and if he continues to improve, you can see them making a profit here. If Eddie Howe can develop Elanga into a double-digit a season scorer, then this price tag will be justified, but right now it feels more like a gamble than a bargain. Next up is Huijsen to Real Madrid for 62.5 million euros. I've watched a lot of this guy at Bournemouth, and what a player he is. Just 20 years old, 6'5", ball playing centre back. He can progress the ball from deep, and defensively he's also very solid, in the top right of this plot for clearances and recoveries per 90 in the Premier League last season. So he's great on the ball, solid defensively. I think anyone who's seen him play last season wasn't surprised to see him go to Real Madrid. Our club fit model suggests that it's a decent fit too, especially when we consider that Xabi Alonso is the new manager. We can see he fits really well with Bayer Leverkusen's tactic that season. And for 62.5 million, Madrid aren't only paying for the player that he is right now, but for the player that he has the potential to become. In my eyes, this is an amazing transfer, and in today's market, for a player with this quality and potential, I think this has to go into the masterclass tier. Next up is another Bournemouth centre-back, Zabarnyi, to PSG for 63 million euros. Also very young, he's already played 2 full seasons in the Premier League, playing almost every minute at just 20 and 21 years old. He's a solid 1v1 defender, really effective at regaining possession with recoveries and high pressing, but the thing that he excels the most at is ball progression. He ranked 4th in the Premier League for progressive carry distance last season, and this clearly suits PSG's playing style as they rank very highly in the club fit model. He's already got 2 full seasons in the Premier League at just 22 years old, and the resale potential is definitely there, especially considering that centre backs usually peak in their late 20s to early 30s. At first glance, 63 million euros seems a bit hefty for a centre back moving from a mid-table Premier League side to the Champions League winners, but the market is so inflated that if he locks down their defence, so the next best part of a decade, I think this deal will look like a bargain. Chelsea spending big once again, and this time it's on Brighton's João Pedro. At 23, he's already had 3 seasons in the Prem and 2 in the Championship. He was Brighton's main man last season, and they relied on him for a lot of their attacking output, but he only scored 5 non-penalty goals last season, and the season before that also only 5 non-penalty goals. So not necessarily the most prolific attacker in terms of his attacking output. On top of that, he's had a few injuries in the recent seasons, missing 11 games for Brighton in the 23-24 season and 11 games for Watford in the 22-23 season. But evaluating a player like João Pedro based on his goals and assists fails to recognise the value that he adds with his creativity and ability to link the midfield and attack. And our model suggests that Chelsea is a strong fit for him tactically. So 63.7 million euros seems like a big fee for a player that doesn't have the goals and assist data to back it up. But the role that he can play in the Chelsea squad and the creativity that he adds to their attack makes this look like a very smart buy in my opinion. At just 23 years old with good resale potential and 3 Premier League seasons under his belt already, I think this is a good move for Chelsea. He's going straight into the bargain tier. Kudus is the next one on the list at 63.8 million from West Ham to Spurs. He's already had 2 seasons in the Prem with West Ham, getting 14 goal involvements in his first season, then 8 goal involvements last season. So he's not necessarily been brought in for his insane attacking output, but what he was bought for and what he really excels at is elite ball progression and crossing. He ranks 1st in the league for total successful dribbles with 98 last season, and he put a lot of accurate crosses into the box last season, clearly something that Thomas Frank is very keen to do with the likes of Solanke and Richarlison to aim for in the middle. At 24, Kudus is about to enter into his prime, so 63.8 million for a player with Prem experience seems like good value. The only doubt I have is about his attacking output, because a player at that price tag should be expected to contribute significantly to the team's goals and assists tally, which is why I'm going to put him in at the fair price tier. It's not a bargain at that price tag, but it's definitely not a gamble, because he's shown that he can do it in the Prem and he's still very young. Next up, another Spurs player, as they got Xavi Simons from Red Bull Leipzig for 65 million euros. He's a player that we've all known about since he was very young, winning Barcelona's Youth Player of the Year 4 seasons in a row, moved to PSG and then to PSV, where he won joint top goal scorer with 19 goals in the Eredivisie at just 19 years old. He then moved to Red Bull Leipzig in the Bundesliga, where he had 8 goals and 11 assists, and in his most recent season for Leipzig he grabbed 10 goals and 6 assists in the Bundesliga. Now Spurs have just bought him for 65 million euros in what looks to me to be one of the bargains of the summer, and I don't think people are really talking about it enough, because after hearing the summary of Xavi Simons' career today, you could make the argument that he is one of the biggest talents in world football at the moment. And if you were to say that in 5 years he could be a world-class player, meaning one of the top 10 players in the world, I would not even consider arguing against that, because every step in this guy's career he has absolutely excelled. He ranked 3rd for through balls in the Bundesliga last season and 10th in the top 5 European leagues overall. The season before, he was 2nd in the Bundesliga. The number of successful passes he makes into the box are next level. His club fit shows that Spurs is also a perfect fit for him, which is another point in his favour. As you can tell, I'm a big fan of this move, and 65 million in today's market for a player of his quality and his potential feels like a daylight robbery. He's going straight into the masterclass tier. Next up is Gyökeres to Arsenal for 65.8 million euros. He absolutely dominated the Portuguese league with with Sporting, and at 27 for 65.8 million euros, it looks like a very good deal. At that age, he doesn't really have a lot of resale potential, but for a team that are chasing trophies right now, I think it's a really smart move for Arsenal, who have been crying out for a proper number 9 for years. But that doesn't mean this transfer doesn't come with its risks, because while he did score 97 goals in 102 games for Sporting, which is absolutely insane, he hasn't proven that he can do it in a top flight league yet. So there are question marks there. Obviously, he did show that he can do it in the Champions League, scoring 6 goals in 8 games, 3 of those coming against Man City. So those questions may have been answered there, but the jury is still out on whether he can do it in the Premier League, and in particular, whether he suits Arsenal's style of play. And this is my biggest hang up on this transfer, because Arteta prefers a measured, precise build-up in attack, and when we run the club fit model for Gyökeres, he doesn't seem to fit Arsenal's playing style. That being said, I am nitpicking to try and find some pros and cons to this transfer, but in today's market, 65.8 million euros for a striker with 182 goals and assists in his past 199 club games is an absolute bargain. I just think that with little resale value, his lack of top flight league games, and the adjustment to Arteta's system means he just about misses out on the masterclass tier, but he definitely belongs in bargain. Retegui to Ekitiké is the next most expensive move. He was top scorer in Serie A last season with 25 goals, and he also grabbed 8 assists, which meant that he had the most goal involvements in the league overall. He's a pure goal scorer, and at 26 years old, he's entering into his prime years. 68 million euros is a high fee, but in the Saudi market, value is measured a little bit differently. On the pitch, he'll deliver goals, and off the pitch, he'll raise the club's visibility too. Still, by European standards, this is very pricey, especially considering he's only played 2 seasons in European's top flight. Because of that, he is going into the gamble tier for me, which feels harsh considering the season he just had at Atalanta, but I just have a bit of doubts whether he can replicate that form elsewhere. Next up is Eze to Arsenal for 69.3 million euros. The last minute swoop to get him away from Spurs is exactly the type of transfer drama that we love to see. At 27, he is in his prime. Not much resale potential there, but he is a fantastic footballer. This season, he got 16 goal contributions in the league, 15 the season before, and 14 the season before that. So his ability to find the back of the net and create chances for his teammates is already proven in the Premier League. The question I think a lot of us have, however, is how this move makes sense for Arsenal, seeing as he's played as an attacking midfielder in a 3-4-2-1 formation at Palace the past few seasons. And this isn't really a position that Arsenal use on the pitch, opting for more of a 4-3-3 with his wingers, and Odegaard obviously playing in the 3 in the midfield, acts almost as the attacking midfielder for them. And we can see that the club fit model sees this way too. Arsenal isn't even appearing on his plot here, but he has played on the left wing in his career previously, which is definitely a position that Arteta is looking to bolster. And a top player with his quality should be able to find his feet at any position in the forward line. For me, this seems like a fair price. I was slightly tempted to put him into the bargain category. I think it's just a bit of a wait and see how he fits into Arteta's system. Next up is another Arsenal transfer, Martin Zubimendi for 70 million euros. With Partey leaving, Arsenal have finally got their next number 6, Martin Zubimendi, who they've been wanting for a while. He's a deep line playmaker, excels at passing under pressure, breaking lines, and maintaining a good defensive structure. He ranks first for value from defensive actions for defensive mids in La Liga last season, which is StatsBomb's measure of the importance of your defensive actions. At 26, he's got the perfect balance of entering into his prime years while already having 5 full seasons of La Liga experience under his belt. 70 million is a high fee, but in today's market, finding an elite number 6 is very difficult, and it's definitely a position that Arsenal obviously wanted to bolster and find some reinforcements in. I think this is one of the smartest buys of the window, and it's going straight into the bargain category. Next up is Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich for 70 million euros. There was a lot of discussion around this move and whether Bayern Munich got ripped off. If you've ever watched Diaz play, you can see his quality not only on the ball, but the work rate that he provides for his team to win the ball back every single time. He's explosive, he's direct, and he brings elite dribbling, 1v1 ability, and also defensive intensity. And his attacking output is great too, with 13 non-penalty goals last season. At 28 years old, Bayern are investing in the here and now, not the future product. There's little resale potential, but he does strengthen their wing options options instantly. He's going straight into the fair price tier. Next up is Matheus Cunha to Man United for 74.2 million euros. He offers energy, creativity, and most importantly, goals. He had 15 goals last season and 6 assists for Wolves, and 12 goals with 7 assists the season prior. So already we know he's a Premier League proven forward. We can see here his attacking output is up there with the best forwards in the league, and the number of shots he takes is right up there too. And the fact that he's putting up these numbers in a team lower down in the table just shows his quality. He also fits Amorim's system perfectly, as he played the same formation at Wolves the past few seasons, and the club fit model agrees with this fit too. So what are the downsides here? He's 26 years old, so he's in his prime. I think this move makes a lot of sense for Man United, and Wolves know the level of player that they had on their hands, which is why they charged such a high fee. And 74.2 million euros is a very high fee, but I think it makes sense for a player of this quality, which is why he goes straight into the fair price tier. Next up, another Man United transfer, and that's Bryan Mbeumo for 75 million euros. He's had 4 seasons in the Prem with Brentford, and last season was his standout season by far. He had 20 goals and 7 assists, which was the 3rd most goal involvements in the league. In previous seasons, he had 15 goal involvements. Before that, it was 7 goal involvements and 11 the season prior. So he is Premier League proven, which obviously always adds a good bit onto the price tag. He overperformed his XG massively last season, which is how we measure a player's finishing ability. If they score more goals than their XG, then it means that they're finishing some very difficult chances. And he was the biggest XG overperformer in the league last season, scoring over 8 more goals than he was expected to based off the quality of the chances that he was getting. And the reason I bring this up is because this is the first time he's overperformed his XG in 4 years. So can we expect him to continue performing at this rate, or was last season just a bit of an anomaly? Maybe it was the perfect blend of manager, system, and teammates at Brentford that allowed him to excel at that rate. However, the club fit model suggests that Man United does offer a good fit for him. I just think that for 75 million, paying that much for a player whose most non-penalty goals in the Premier League prior to last season was 8. But can he replicate the form that he had at Brentford last season? Only time will tell. For now, I'm sticking him in the gamble tier. Next up is Osimhen to Galatasaray for 75 million euros. He went on loan there from Napoli last season and was the top scorer in the Turkish league with 26 goals in 30 games. He scored 15 goals in 25 games for Napoli the season prior, and 26 goals in 32 games the previous season when they won the Scudetto and he got the top score in the league. So this is clearly an elite level striker we're talking about, one of the best in the world. He's powerful, aggressive, and he takes a lot of shots. And 75 million euros is massive for Galatasaray. He did win them the league last season. And if 75 million euros is the price that they're willing to pay for him to win them the league again, then I think this seems like a fair deal. Let's put him straight in the fair tier. Next up, we're back to Man United with Benjamin Šeško for 76.5 million euros. He ranked 9th in the Bundesliga for goals with 13 in 33 games. The season prior, he scored 14 goals in 33 games. He's only 22, so still has a lot of years to improve on his game, and I think that's what Man United are investing in here. And we can see that he was the top scorer in the Bundesliga last season for players his age, just above Jamal Musiala. But based off the data alone, he isn't necessarily a clear standout. That being said, he's young, he's athletic, and he's very intelligent with the movement that he makes on the pitch. And he's also overperformed his XG the past 2 seasons in a row, so he's clearly a very good finisher. There will be questions whether he fits Amorim's system, and based off our club fit model, Newcastle, who he's heavily linked with last summer, could have been a better fit for him. But at 76.5 million euros, he's so young with massive resale potential. I think this is a really fair deal for Man United. Next up, with Isak gone, Newcastle needed a replacement. Enter 6'5" Woltemade, an aerial monster, excellent hold-up play. He fits Howe's physical, direct style, but with no Champions League experience and only 2 seasons in Europe's top flight, this feels like a big gamble. Statistically, he had the most touches in the box per 90 last season and 4th most accurate passes in the box, so clearly a fox in the box that knows where to be in and around the goals. And he grabbed himself 12 goals and 2 assists in 28 games in the league last season. The season before, however, he just had 2 goals in 30 league appearances. And before that, he had a 2-season gap of not even playing in the Bundesliga, but in the 2nd and 3rd tier in Germany. So this feels like a huge gamble, dishing out that amount of cash for a player that hasn't necessarily proven they can do it in the top flight consistently. Paying 85 million euros for a striker that just scored 10 goals for the first time in their career in a top flight league seems like a crazy amount of money. And if I'm honest, it feels like Stuttgart have gotten away with a daylight robbery here. He is going straight into the robbery tier. Hopefully How proves me wrong and we get to see the best out of this guy, because he does look like a very fun player, but just based off all the data that I have available to me, this seems like the only logical conclusion. On to the Liverpool show, because the top 3 players on this list were all bought up by the Premier League champions. Starting with Ekitiké for 95 million euros. He's 6'3", he's a great finisher, natural dribbler, and great passing ability too. Essentially the full package for a striker. Statistically, he stands out even amongst the top strikers in the Bundesliga. First for non-penalty shots, non-penalty XG, touches in the box. 15 goals and 8 assists in 33 games last season made him the 6th highest goal scorer and 10th most assists in the league. The season prior, Ekitiké only played 700 minutes in the Bundesliga. However, he did manage to get 4 goals and 2 assists, which was a sign of what he was capable of doing. And the season before that, when he was just 20 years old, he played 25 league games for PSG and grabbed 3 goals and 4 assists, which aren't necessarily crazy numbers, but he scored 10 goals in 24 games the previous season for Reims at just 19 years old. So Ekitiké has all the signs of a striker on the rise in his career. And he does more than just score. He's also very technical on the ball and a great dribbler and good at finding a pass in the final third. The next question is, how does he fit Liverpool and Arne Slot's system? According to our club fit model, it is a really good fit, but Isak joining does throw a spanner in the works here, and I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, but Ekitiké can just move on to the left wing, but I don't think that's what Liverpool bought him for. I think they got Ekitiké almost as insurance if they didn't get Isak from Newcastle. And 95 million euros for a backup striker is an absolutely insane fee to pay, even in today's market. Maybe they can both play at the same time and Ekitiké will excel as a winger, or maybe Arne Slot will change up the formation and the system so that he can fit both of them at the same time. Who knows, we will see. I just think that's a big chink in the armor of this transfer and the fee that they paid for him. But there are still a lot of positives to this move. He's got the experience, he passes the eye test, his data is amazing, and he's only 23, so the resale potential is definitely there. But 95 million euros is a lot to pay for a striker that might not even start every game. So because of that, I'm gonna put him in the gamble section, which may seem harsh, especially with the lack of top quality strikers in today's market. You have to pay big money to get the players that you want. And 95 million euros for a striker that shows all the signs of world-class potential is a fair valuation, so I was tempted to put him in the fair bracket here. And I do think he will excel at Liverpool, which he has already shown already. He settled in very quickly with 2 goals and an assist in his first 2 games already. But if he's not even starting every game, then this has to go in gamble, so I'm going to stick with my gut and put him in the gamble tier here. Next up is Florian Wirtz to Liverpool for 125 million euros. He's Germany's golden boy. He's played 6 seasons in the Bundesliga since the age of 16, been putting up double-digit contributions in the league since he was 17. Last season he had 10 goals and 12 assists in the league. The previous season 11 goals and 11 assists in the league. So back-to-back 20 goal involvement seasons. He had the most goal creating actions in the league for 2 seasons in a row, most through balls in the league for 2 seasons in a row, most successfuls in the league last season with 82. He's also incredibly versatile. He can play as a 10 on the wing, as a false 9, or in a midfield 3. And our club fit model suggests that he is a good fit for Arne Slot's system. So are there any cons to this move? At 125 million, it is undeniably an insane amount of money, breaking the British transfer record, but you're paying for a player that has the potential to be probably the best player in the world in 5 years. But there is no such thing as a 125 million bargain, so he's going straight in the fair price tier. And finally, the biggest deal of the summer, Alexander Isak to Liverpool for 144 million euros. Breaking the British transfer record again in the same window. That's absolute madness from Liverpool. In my eyes, he's one of the top 3 strikers in the world right now. 2nd most goals in the Prem last season, 2nd for non-penalty goals per 90, 4th highest XG in the league. He scored 23 goals and grabbed 6 assists last season, 21 goals and 2 assists in the previous season. And at 25 years old, he's already had 6 years in top flight football under his belt, 3 in the Premier League and 3 in La Liga, where he scored 17 goals in 34 games at just 20 years old. But not only does he excel statistically, he's also just a great footballer to watch. He's 6'3", wiry, great in the air, can hold up the ball and rarely loses possession, but he also controls and dribbles the ball like a diminutive winger. These things usually don't go together. I think the last time I saw a player at his height with all these qualities qualities was Latan, so I don't know what they're feeding those boys over in Sweden, but clearly it's working for them. On top of all that, our club fit model also says it's a great fit for him at Liverpool. So are there any downsides to this transfer? From a footballing perspective, absolutely not. But there is a big concern, and that is his injury record. He missed 9 games last season, 12 the previous season, 18 the season before. He's not been injury free since the 2020-21 season. Altogether, if you are buying one of the best strikers in the world, you're gonna have to pay up. And although 144 million euros is an absolutely absurd amount of money, even in today's market, I think he's worth every penny, especially if he brings Liverpool another Premier League title, which he obviously has it in his locker to do so. I was even tempted to put him in the bargain category here because you probably would pay like 200 million euros for a striker of his quality, but the injury record is enough to cast a bit of doubt in my mind, so I'm gonna stick him in the fair price category. So there you have it, the top 20 most expensive transfers this summer ranked from daylight robbery to absolute masterclass. A bit of a different video for you guys during the international break, away from my usual FPL stuff. So let me know if you guys like this video and want to see more like it in the future. Also, let me know if you guys think I got any of these horribly wrong. Obviously, football will and always will be a game of opinions, so only time will tell how good or bad some of these predictions are. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time, have a good one.